Charity, we can attract Lord's grace. And it is said, to the degree one is sincere, to that degree one receives Lord's grace. Bhagavad Gita says, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tans tathaiva bhajamyaham. To the degree one is surrendered to Supreme Lord, to that degree he receives his reward. So in this way, sincerity plays an important role. And Lord is not going to see any other material disqualifications. He is only going to observe our sincerity on the path of devotion, and he will offer his grace. We find Dhruva, he was very small in age, but that was not an obstacle. Similarly, Gajendra, he was an elephant. Brahman Patnis, they were not knowing scriptural mantras. And Prahalad, he was born in demoniac family. Ajamil, his past life was very sinful. But because all of these personalities were very sincere in their devotional practice, all of them received Lord's shelter and attained the Supreme. So in this way, sincerity is very important for us to proceed on the path of Krishna consciousness. Of course, Lord's devotees are very compassionate. And if someone is not even sincere on the path of practice, Krishna consciousness, still they are very compassionate upon him, and they may arrange some way so that they receive Lord's grace. Just like Nalkor and Manigriv, they were not at all interested in Krishna consciousness. But Narad Muni, he, in the form of course, blessed them that they become the tree in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj. And that way, by seeing the childhood pastime of Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, gradually they got purified and attained the love for God. So in this way, of course, sincerity from our side is very important. But Lord's devotees, they are so compassionate that even if someone is not sincere, they somehow bless him so that gradually one becomes sincere and becomes devotee of Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. So in the same mood, Srila Prabhupada, he went to the Western countries where there was no question of finding any person who is interested in Krishna Bhakti. But he went on the order of his spiritual master and he preached Krishna consciousness and he created sincerity in those hearts. Sometimes in ISKCON, some very lowly people, crazy people would also come. So one time in one of the ISKCON center, devotees said to Srila Prabhupada that we want to reject this crazy person. Srila Prabhupada said, our process is not to reject, but to reform the people. So he was not ready to reject anyone. He was ready to accept everyone irrespective of all their disqualification, because he was seeing the sincerity, the spark of sincerity in everyone. So sincerity is very important. So what could be the parameters of measuring our sincerity? So we can answer this from different perspective, but I will speak from the Nectar of Instruction, verse 3. It says, Utsaha nishchayat dhairyat tattat karma pravartanat sang tyagat satohu ritte shadbhir bhakti prasiddhyati. So it means that one should be enthusiastic, determined, and with patience, he should practice the principles of devotional service in the association of devotees, following the footsteps of great acharyas. So 6 principles are mentioned in this verse: enthusiasm, determination, patience, and following the limbs of devotional practices, association of devotees, and following the footsteps of acharyas. So by maintaining these 6 principles, these 6 principles are favorable to our Krishna Bhakti, and by maintaining these 6 principles, one can grow in Krishna consciousness nicely, and thus one can exhibit his sincerity on the path of Krishna consciousness. And by showing such sincerity, one will receive the grace of the Supreme Lord. He will receive the direction of spiritual master and devotees. And by following those directions, the contamination in our heart will be purified, and ultimately we will attain the Lord's abode. So in this way, grace of the Supreme Lord is very much necessary for our purification and to attain the Supreme Lord's shelter. And there is no other alternative than the grace of the Supreme Lord, which comes from by the grace of the devotees. It is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, Athapi te deva padambujadvaya prasad leshanugrahita evahi janati tattvam bhagavan mahimno na chanyam eko pichiram vichinvan. So it says, even by receiving the slight grace of Supreme Lord's lotus feet, one can understand the glories of the Supreme Lord, which is not possible to understand even by thousands and thousands of years of practicing austerity or studying scriptures and speculating about them. So only alternative is Lord's grace, which comes by accepting the shelter of his representative devotees. So this principle that by our sincere practice, one receives Lord's grace is highlighted in so many examples in Srimad Bhagavatam, in the example of Dhruva, Prachetas, and Prachin Bharishad, King Prithu, and many others. So I will quote some of these examples with little more details. Dhruva, as he was going in the forest in search of God with great determination, by the grace of the Supreme Lord, he met Narad Muni. Narad gave him the spiritual directions. And based on those directions, Dhruv Maharaj, he went to the forest of Madhuvan, which is the place of Krishna's pastimes. And there he takes bath in river Yamuna. And as advised by Narad Muni, he engages himself in worshipping the Supreme Lord. And by his sincere practice in that spiritual path, very soon, because of his great determination and sincerity, Supreme Lord personally manifests himself before him. So this is one example where it is very clear that by one sincere practice, we can please the Supreme Lord, and Supreme Lord, he is giving his darshan to us and blessing us. Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he writes that if we want to be successful in our attempt to go back home, back to Godhead, we must very sincerely follow the instructions of spiritual master. That is the way of perfection. And similarly, Srila Prabhupada, when he was in Venezuela, in his lecture, he said, if you all sincerely chant 16 rounds, follow 4 regulative principles, do Sankirtan, definitely you will see Krishna face to face. So in this way, if we follow the instructions of spiritual master, surely we can attract Supreme Lord's mercy, and he can offer his darshan to us. And in this way, we can attain the shelter of the Supreme Lord. The next example, which I will explain, is about King Prachin Barhi. King Prachin Barhi, he was very much attached to performing fruitive activities. And he had performed a lot of karma kanda activities, so much fruitive activities. So by seeing his absorption in fruitive activities, Narad Muni, he felt compassionate upon him, and he decided to instruct him in the spiritual path. And by hearing from Narad Muni, Maharaj Prachin Barhi became so convinced about the spiritual goal of life that he did not wait for his sons to return. Without wasting a moment, he immediately left his kingly life and went to Kapilashram to practice the principles of Krishna consciousness. He went to Kapilashram and there he got completely engaged in transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord. And by his sincere practice, he also attained a spiritual position which was qualitatively equal to that Supreme Lord. See, when King Prachin Barhi, who was just absorbed into fruitive activities, because of the compassion of Narad Muni, he also accepted spiritual path, and by his sincere practice, he also attained the supreme destination. So similarly, Srila Prabhupada was also traveling all over the world and being very compassionate, he was also giving Krishna consciousness to everyone, though they may not be interested. One time a man, he asked Srila Prabhupada, Swamiji, why do you keep traveling in so many countries? And Srila Prabhupada replied, so that you can stop your traveling in 84 lakh species. So this was Srila Prabhupada's compassion, that he didn't want a living entity to suffer in so many lower species. He wanted that people have got the human life, let their human life be perfected in this very life, and they should all go back home, back to Godhead. And thus he was traveling all over the world and giving Krishna consciousness to everyone. And the sons of King Prachin Barhi, Prachetas, they were very pious, gentlemanly, and they had gone to practice austerities. And by practicing austerities, they wanted to worship the Supreme Lord and receive his blessings. So by seeing their good character and their motive to practice austerities to please the Supreme Lord, Shiva became very pleased with them. And thus he appeared in front of them and instructed them in the prayers to glorify the Supreme Lord. And in this way, by following the instructions of Shiva, these prachetas, they concentrated their mind fully upon the Sham Sundar form of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada writes like that. And that way, by the grace of Shiva, these prachetas, they also received the shelter of the Supreme Lord. Supreme Lord appeared in front of them and he blessed them to enter into the family life. And he said to them that after finishing your family life in due course of time, you all can return to my spiritual abode. And that way, by receiving the Lord's blessing, these prachetas came back home and accepted Marisha as their wife, and they maintained their family life. And later, remembering the blessings of the Supreme Lord, they gave up their family life, they left home further to enter into the forest to advance themselves more in Krishna consciousness. And this time Narad Muni personally came to shower Lord's mercy upon them. And he guided them in the teachings of Krishna consciousness, how to focus their mind completely upon the Supreme Lord and please the Supreme Lord. And in his teachings he says, Yatha taror mula nishechanenam trapyanti tatskanda bhujo pishakha prano pahara chayathendriyanam tathaiva sarvarhanamachyuteja. So he taught them, just like by watering the root of a tree, all the branches and leaves get nourished. Just by feeding the stomach of a body, all the other limbs of our body gets nourished. Similarly, by worshipping the Supreme Lord, all the other demigods can be satisfied because they are part of that Supreme Lord. So, in this way, Narad Muni very carefully guided these prachetas in focusing their mind fully upon the Supreme Lord. And by hearing the glories of the Supreme Lord from the lotus mouth of Sri Narad Muni, these prachetas also became very much attached to Supreme Lord, and thus by meditating on Lord's lotus feet, these prachetas also advanced to the ultimate destination, Vishnu Loka, and thus perfected their life. So in this way, these prachetas also, by receiving the grace of two great devotees, Shiva and Narad Muni, ultimately attained the shelter of the Supreme Lord and went to back home, back to Godhead. So one time, Vaikuntanath, disciple of Srila Prabhupada, he asked Srila Prabhupada, so many books are distributed, but these people who have taken the books, they are not yet initiated yet. How they will all go back home, back to Godhead? Srila Prabhupada said, if they sincerely read my books and practice those teachings, they will all be initiated. So in this way, our sincere practice of Srila Prabhupada's teachings is very much required, and then everything will come by Lord's grace. And the next example which I want to highlight is of King Prithu. King Prithu, he was a great king and performing Ashwamedh Yajna for the benefit of the citizens and of course to glorify the Supreme Lord. So he performed 99 yajnas successfully. When he was in the process to perform 100th Ashwamedh Yajna, that time Indra became very much scared because he is famous as Shatkratu, the performer of 100 Ashwamedh Yajnas. So he didn't wanted any other person to be competing against him. And thus Indra, taking the garb of different kinds of bogus saintly people, he would steal the horse again and again and again. So the situation became so complex that Brahmanas who are performing yajnas, they were ready to kill Indra by chanting of their mantras. And that time, to sort out this problem, Brahma personally comes and instructs King Prithu that you be satisfied with 99 yajnas, no need to perform 100 yajnas. And King Prithu, hearing the advice of Brahma, his superior, agreed to it. And in this way, he pleased Brahma. Because Brahma was very much pleased, a devotee of the Supreme Lord, and seeing the elevated qualities and such excellent behavior of King Prithu, Supreme Lord also became very happy with King Prithu. And thus, Supreme Lord Vishnu personally appeared in front of King Prithu and blessed him and told him that very soon you will be able to see the liberated personalities, the four Kumaras. So in this way, by the grace of Supreme Lord Vishnu, King Prithu, he got the association of these great devotees, four Kumaras, and got good guidelines, instructions from them. So later, as King Prithu was ruling very well, there was not a single sin committed during his kingdom. The whole globe was sinless, it is said. And seeing this, Kumaras were very pleased and they decided to see King Prithu and came and instructed him. So in this way, King Prithu, receiving the instructions of Sanat Kumar, he also started following the spiritual path very, very seriously. And as per the advice of Sanat Kumar, he worshipped Krishna. And finally, he also left the world riding on a chariot coming from Vaikuntha. And in this way, he also attained the Supreme. So we find in the example of King Prithu also that sincerity in our spiritual practice, sincerity in our devotional character plays an important role to receive the mercy of Lord and his devotees. One time Srila Prabhupada was in Radha Damodar temple, and there was an old widow, and every day without fail, early in Brahma Muhurta, she would go to take bath in Yamuna river, and after taking bath, she would carry every day the pot of Yamuna water to Radha Damodar temple for Radha Damodar Abhishek. This happened every day, irrespective of summer season, winter season, whatever trouble could be. But this lady would do this service every day. And Srila Prabhupada commented, because of her sincere service, she would go back home, back to Godhead. So in this way, we find in so many examples, sincerity plays an important role for us to attain Lord's shelter. There are other examples also, like King Rahugana. He was also on his way to Kapilashram for religious practices. And because he was sincere, Supreme Lord was merciful upon him, and thus he got the association of Jad Bharat, and King Rahugana accepted Jad Bharat as his spiritual master, and Jad Bharat also instructed him on the path of spiritual life. Jad Bharat, King Rahugana asked Jad Bharat, how to achieve such spiritual success? And that time Jad Bharat also says, Rahu Ganayatat tapasa nayati nache jaya nirvapanad grahadva na chandasa naiva jalagni suryair bina mahatpad rajo bhishekam. So Jad Bharat is very clearly instructing him that not by performing austerities or not by following the rules and regulations of our ashram very successfully, or not by studying the scriptures very deeply. No, all these processes are not going to work. Only when we smear our body with the dust of the lotus feet of the devotees of the Supreme Lord, then only we can realize the absolute truth and attain his shelter. So this is the only way that we should follow the instructions of spiritual master and devotees. And by following sincerely these spiritual instructions, we receive Lord's grace. And by receiving the Lord's grace, ultimately, we can understand the Supreme Lord and attain his shelter. And Srila Prabhupada talks the similar thing about King Parikshit. King Parikshit, after hearing the curse upon him, he decides to retire from his kingly life, and he goes on the bank of Ganges. And Srila Prabhupada says, by grace of Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, Shukdev Goswami, who would just stay at someone's home only for a little time during the time of cows milking, that Shukdev Goswami came in front of King Parikshit and stayed there for 7 days, continuously instructing Parikshit Maharaj on the science of Srimad Bhagavatam. And in this way, by hearing from the lotus mouth of Shukdev Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj, he was able to know the actual position of the Supreme Lord, something which cannot be understood by studying the Vedic literature, but one can understand by hearing from such liberated devotee like Shukdev Goswami. And this way, Parikshit Maharaj also attained the perfection of his life. So, Supreme Lord, he is there in everyone's heart. And as per our sincerity, definitely he reciprocates and offers his mercy upon us. So we should be very sincere in our spiritual practices. And thus, there should not be any anxiety to attain perfection. We should not be having any anxiety for the perfection. We should be having anxiety to practice our principles very sincerely. Srila Prabhupada says, there need not be any anxiety to attain perfection. If one is sincerely following the instructions of spiritual master, then he is sure to attain perfection. So Srila Prabhupada has many times says that simply follow the 4 regulative principles, chant 16 rounds attentively, simply accept Krishna's prasad, remain in association of devotees, execute the orders of spiritual master, and preach Krishna consciousness. So in this way, we should be very much focused in these basic principles, basic teachings given to us by Srila Prabhupada, and by taking shelter of spiritual master in this way sincerely, surely we can attain the Lord's shelter. Srila Prabhupada says, Tasmad Gurum Prapadyeta Jigyasu Shreya Uttamam. If we are seriously desiring the spiritual happiness, then one must seek the shelter of spiritual master, and by following the teachings of spiritual master, we can attain Lord's shelter, we can attain Lord's abode. So I pray that I should be sincere in following the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, which is coming from his books, and the devotees who are sincerely following his teachings. And this way, I pray that I sincerely practice these teachings in my life, both externally and internally, and thus serve devotees throughout my life with pure devotion. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Any questions, comments? Haribol.
Hare Krishna. Through your presentation, what I understood is following the instruction of the spiritual master will lead to sincerity. But spiritual master is far away. So how do I know in my practical life whether I have sincerity or whatever it is, whether it is slowly increasing or not? It should not be decreasing. I should not be getting allured by Maya. So how do I know some signs, some symptoms in me by which I know for myself?
Of course, that point I did not highlight it in my class. As we are sincerely practicing our devotional principles, our attachment to Lord Shri Krishna, his devotees, and the process of bhakti will increase more and more. The more we are sincerely serving devotees, the more our attachment to hear Krishna Katha will also increase. So by observing these symptoms, whether my attachment to Krishna conscious process, Lord, devotees is increasing or not, and whether my attachment to material objects is decreasing or not, by seeing this, we can judge whether I am growing in the path of Krishna consciousness or not, or whether I am sincerely practicing it or not. Okay, thank you. Any other thing?
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, positive thing you have told.
You speak, I can hear you.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, the positive thing you have told that what are the symptoms of not properly, sincerely practicing Krishna consciousness? So negatively also, that is it the same that if we are not sincerely practicing, our material things are increasing and we are not getting attracted to Krishna? Only these things or some other things are also there? That
Yes,
how, the same thing I want to ask him, how we are understanding that we are not sincere?
my answer is the same as I gave to Sundarsham Prabhu. If we are not sincere, that means our devotional attachment will not increase, and instead material attachment will increase more and more. Because Maya is constantly acting.
So can you give some of the examples of, you have given so many examples from the Shastra, Dhruva Maharaj and so many others. So in current stage, can you give to example, one is sincere and sincere devotee who practiced Krishna consciousness and attained the perfection, like in current stage, in
Current
our,
state.
in our current stage?
So many disciples of Srila Prabhupada, they practice sincerely. Bhakti Tirth Maharaj, Kadam Kanan Maharaj, they all practice so sincerely in their life. They dedicated their life fully for the mission of Srila Prabhupada. And the way they departed their body, it clearly shows that they went back home, back to Godhead. And Giriraj Maharaj had written this book, Many Moons. It talks about so many personalities. They practice sincerely. Huh? All of you devotees are practicing sincerely. And I derive inspiration from all of you.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Guruji, I want to understand like we hear one has to practice Krishna consciousness, sincere, one has to be sincere, serious, and free from ulterior motives. So, what are the difference? One may be trying to be sincere, but some ulterior motives may be there. Or so, can you please explain all the three: sincerity, seriousness, and free from ulterior motives?
Yeah, this I have also heard so many times that one should be sincere, serious, without any ulterior motive. And one time Rajesham Prabhu, he asked also about the difference between these three. And I had heard it, but I forgot it.
It
So,
appears the sincerity and freedom from ulterior motives appears to be similar. So
yeah,
what exactly?
it appears actually if one is sincere, then he will be serious and he will not have any ulterior motive. So both are supporting each other. So in my understanding, my understanding could be very wrong, and maybe I cannot comment much. I understand that hmm, for me, sincerity and seriousness is like being enthusiastic and determined.
Okay.
So these two words, enthusiasm and determination, they are easy to understand. Enthusiastic means one is ready to practice Krishna consciousness in spite of no support. He will practice Krishna consciousness. That means he's so enthusiastic to practice Krishna consciousness. If one is given support and then he's enthusiastic, fine. But without any support, still he is very much enthusiastic to practice Krishna consciousness. That shows his enthusiasm. And determination means in spite of a lot of obstacles, he doesn't give up his practice of Krishna consciousness. That shows his determination to practice Krishna consciousness. So in this way, I understand enthusiasm and determination. And in my understanding, sincerity and seriousness is in line with these. I forgot the answer which Rajesham Prabhu got like that. If anyone knows, you can explain. Sincerity, seriousness. Anyone knows? Okay. Anything else? Shall we take feedback now? Yes. I have not yet improved myself in the feedback which I have received in the last session. I know it. And from by my endeavor, I may not be able to improve. Only by Lord's grace, if something happens, fine. But if anything else, if you want to say, I am happy to hear it. Anyone, please? You can speak. You speak something. No, you can give some feedback now. Okay, Gopal Champu Prabhu, you end it.
Hare Krishna. So, Prabhuji, you give a nice presentation. You have good tone and pace, effective eye contact, and you quoted very nicely to the related to subject, the verses from Bhagavatam. So it was all round presentation you have given to us. Also, there is some, you can give some guidelines how the hefty topic from Bhagavatam, how a practitioner can practice in his day-to-day life. Because this is like pure devotees, examples are there. So how in day-to-day life, how we can be sincere. So that also you can tell, because we are practicing some process of devotion service. So we can have some yardstick to measure whether we are sincere or not. Otherwise, audience will be left out. They don't get anything to carry home message, or they don't get any benefit of hearing because they don't know what to do in their personal life. That kind of knowledge we can impart, or we can give to devotees, or we can tell how they can become sincere or something like that, then it will be very helpful. So that was my understanding. Otherwise, you nicely covered the examples and scriptural quotes, so it was very good to hear. Thank you.
Thank you.
His
Hare
grace,
Krishna.
Gaurila Prabhu ki jai. Next presentation after 10 minutes.
Hare Krishna. I seek the blessings of all the Vaishnavas. Coming. Response. Hare Krishna. So I seek the blessings of all the Vaishnavas to speak something on this divine topic, Narad Muni's innovative preaching. So we'll take it in this order. First, we'll see, because the section which was mentioned was about Prachina Parishad being preached by Narad Muni. So we'll see what he did in that. Then his innovative preaching in other places. Then Srila Prabhupada, what he spoke about in innovation, and then Prabhupada's innovative preaching, then some of the current innovative preaching efforts, and then some generic principles. So Narad Muni is preaching to Prachina Parishad. So Prachina Parishad, as just now His Grace God Leela Prabhu was mentioning, was attached to Utiv activities and yajnas and Karma Kanda section. And when he met Srila Narad Muni, he was respectful to him. So Narad Muni wanted to elevate him to the divine understanding of bhakti. And because he was caught up in the ritualistic things, so he helped him to rise above it through a series of things. First, he showed him that how sacrificed animals are awaiting after death to pierce you with their thorns. So, of course, this Narad Muni can do. We may not be able to do that display, we may have to give a help review video for that. But Narad Muni could actually give them a live, display of that. And then he spoke an allegorical story, which is a very big riddle for Prachina Parishad. But actually, allegorical, the Puranjan is actually Prachina Parishad only. But when people hear the story, then they're very interested to hear stories. So they're hearing the story and they become absorbed in it. And then what is the lesson to be learned become more easy for people to come to. Prabhupada will mention that in the purport we'll see. And then he should also, because after Puranjan heard allegorical story of Puranjan, Prachina Parishad heard, after that he understood that I should move for the higher goal of life. But still he was caught up in that when his sons will return, Prachetas will return, then I will go. So that time, then Narad Muni wanted to give him instant renunciation dose. So that time he also spoke the allegorical story of the deer being chased by the tiger and the hunter and this. So by that, then he became convinced, I'm leaving immediately, Prachetas will come later. So Prabhupada, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions in 425.9, Narada considered, I will enlighten the king who is fond of material stories with this material story. So he's interested in material stories. Let me tell one material story. I will awaken him to his condition by relating a different story using the ornament of aprastuta prashamsa, conveying the message by something which is different. Because usually if you tell directly that, sir, you are wrong, then people feel little hurt. But then if they're feeling, oh, he has gone so bad, he has gone so wrong, and then he comes to know I'm only that guy, it becomes more easy for digesting it. Later, Srila Prabhupada read in 428-65. This verse is also mentioning a Paroksha Priyo Devo, that means Paroksha is very dear to the Lord. In the purport, Prabhupada says, indirect instructions is quickly understandable for a common man. Actually, the path of Bhakti Yoga is the path of hearing directly about the pastimes of Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. But those who are not interested in the hearing directly about the activities of the Lord, or who cannot understand them, can very effectively hear such stories and fables as this one narrated by Narad Muni. Like Narad Muni also delivers Kailash. So sometimes the modern Kailash, when you tell the Kailash story, so then by meditating on Kailash, they start relating to their life also. So story narratives are very effective ways of trying to communicate messages. Not only for children. Children surely love to hear stories, but I've seen in classes also, if we tell a story to people, even in grown-up stage, they become attentive. They don't sleep in the class. They are very attentive, and if we can bring lessons, it's very easily digested actually. So Prabhupada used to tell many stories also. Prabhupada used to tell like that liquid beauty story he tells in a very nice way. So there was a girl, she was very beautiful. So Prabhupada gets into the kind of a drama in the story. Like he would take both the roles and speak. So that way people very much relish stories, and through stories bringing the message is very powerful. Then we'll see more innovative preaching efforts of Srila Narad Muni. So Narad Muni was preaching to Prahlad when he was in the womb. So we have started youth preaching and children preaching. Till now, we have not started womb preaching, but Narad Muni had already done it, womb preaching. He knew that after Prahlad comes out, then Prahlad will have a tough time and I will have a tough time to reach him, and he will have a tough time to come to me. So in the womb only, when Hiranyakashipu is in the austerity zone, so his his good wife is ready to be under the protection of Narad Muni, and there Kayadu was although distracted because of various anxieties, but Prahlad was hearing attentively, and Narad Muni knew very well that my disciple there, Prahlad, is getting the right message. So this is a very innovative preaching. When he spoke to Dhruva Maharaj, first, of course, he tested his sincerity as the discussion just ensued. So he has tested his sincerity. Then he gave him instructions. And there in this verse, 4.8.54 comes Desh Kala Vibhagavit. So in that he mentions that mantra has to be chanted and one should offer service to the Lord. But according to Desh Kala Vibhagavit, so there a lot of commentary comes from Prabhupada in next 2-3 verses on this. So Prabhupada mentions in this purport, the method of worship, chanting the mantra and preparing the forms of the Lord is not stereotyped, nor is it exactly the same everywhere. One has to consider the particular time, country, conveniences. What is convenient in India may not be convenient in the Western countries. So I've taken only some sections. Some parts I've kept aside because of lack of, if you read the entire purport, it's 2 pages. If someone does go and preach, taking all risk and allowing all considerations for time and place, it might be that there are changes in the manner of worship, and that is not at all faulty according to Shastra. So the worship of the Lord, like you will see, deity worship when started by Srila Prabhupada in the West. So he told the devotees, Jagannath Baldev Subhadra arrived, and then whoever was coming to take darshan, he told that you should get something for the Lord. Every time we come before the Lord, we should give him fruits or flowers, something you should bring. And he had a very simple worship idea. Candle was there, so people would worship with the candle. But the principle of expressing our love towards the Lord is enabled. So Srila Prabhupada then mentions in the same verse about purport, Srimad Veera Raghavacharya mentioned that the chandalas can also be delivered, initiated. Prabhupada says the formalities may be slightly changed here and there to make them Vaishnavas. In the next verse, purport, Prabhupada further elaborates where the paraphernalia for the worship is being discussed by Narad Muni, and there Narad Muni says that whatever is available. So then Prabhupada writes, in the Western countries, there is no Yamuna or Ganga. So someone may say there is no sacred river, so we cannot do worship. No. Salilai refers to any water, whatever is available, but it must be very clear and collected purely. That water can be used. So Prabhupada is trying to help appreciate what can be the detail which may be adjusted while trying to keep the principle of worship. And then he says that fruits, flower garlands, vegetables should be offered, and they may be according to the country and the availability. So some countries, some fruits will be available, some countries, some other fruits. So that can be Desh Kalpatra. But fruits and vegetables are supposed to be offered, not other things. And tulsi leaves are very important for satisfying the Lord. Prabhupada in this purport, in fact, explicitly mentions the disciple's name. I think she's the only disciple mentioned by Prabhupada in the purport, Srimati Govinda Devi Dasi, that she has been able to grow tulsi leaves. So we are very grateful to her. So Tulsi Marani in the worship is very important, and he says that so as far as possible, arrangement should be made. So Prabhupada is telling what is the detail and what is essential. Further in the purport, Prabhupada says that fruits and flowers should be offered. One should not offer Lord Vasudeva any other than what is prescribed herein by the great authority Narad Muni. One cannot offer deity according to one's own whims. So Prabhupada is clarifying how the purity is kept while trying to adjust the details, So this was Dhruv Maharaj. Then the next, when he is preaching to Hari Ashwas and Shavalashwas, they are both sons of Daksha. Daksha first begot 10,000 sons, Hari Ashwas, and he sent them to do austerity so that he can have them as rulers across the world. So Haryashvas went for doing austerities, and Narad Muni advised the Haryashvas not to enter household life since they were already advanced in spiritual knowledge. Why they should be entangled in that way? So he understood, they are very cultured, very nice boys. Why not make them full-time devotees? So he preached to them, and their advancement can be understood by when we read this riddle of Narad Muni, we can't appreciate much at all, But those devotees, those sons of Daksha, one shot, they understood everything and gave full-time life. One time program, one sentence program, it was. And that made them Swayam Vimarshu Dhya. They themselves meditated and developed the right understanding. While if you see the previous case of Prachinapari, after the whole story was told, Prachinapari very humbly requested that please tell what you meant by that allegory. It was too much for me. So he was honest to share that I am not able to understand. And Narad Muni then explained it in context of his life. But here they themselves understood because they're very advanced souls. So Narad Muni, Desh Kala Patra, here the Patra is very, very ripe to go for full-time devotional service in the renounced order of life. So thus he gives them that type of instruction. Here the Haryashvas were certainly well-behaved, learned and advanced, and in accordance with the order of their father, they went to perform austerities to beget good sons for their family. But Narad Muni took advantage of their good behavior and culture to properly direct them not to be involved with this material world, but to use their culture and knowledge to end their material affairs. So that's the idea, that actually the ideal preacher is able to see what is the best potential of that living entity and then fan him to that standard of devotional service. He does not leave them at whatever they may practice as at a substandard level. Like Daksha was going to make them rulers, so maybe they would have done something for the Lord, but here they can do offering of full life itself. Later on, when it comes to Shavalashvas, then he speaks against enigmatic words, which are, which he had done for the elder brothers. And he adds one thing. He says, and you should have affection for your elder brothers, so just follow their footsteps. So follow them. So Narad Muni encouraged Prajapati Daksha's second group of sons by awakening their natural affinity for their brothers. He urged them to follow their older brothers if they were at all affectionate toward them. अगर तुम्हारे को उनसे प्यार है तो जो वो बोल रहे वो करो, like that. Family affection is very strong, and therefore Narad Muni followed this tactic of reminding them of their family relation with the Haryashvas. So he did not remind them of the family relation with Daksha. He reminded them with the connection. When it came to Haryashvas, he told the father as a supreme father. He made them follow the supreme father, and now he's making them follow the elder brother, because the elder brother is following that supreme father. So very expertly he dovetails the propensities of people in this world also towards transcendence. Later on, he even goes to Daksha. So someone may say, but it was not a successful preaching, but at least he had a strategy behind it. He saw that because Haryashvas and Shavalashvas have left, so he is in a very bereaved situation. So Narad Muni took the opportunity to approach Prajapati Daksha in his bereavement, because the time of bereavement is a suitable time for appreciating Bhakti Yoga. So sometimes when someone is near and dear one has departed, so of course we have to be very sensitive in the talk, but people are through a situation where they can think of higher subject matters, or someone is about to leave himself, his body. That is also a time when the person is in a contemplative mood about life. So the bereavement situation can make us think deeply. So Krishna consciousness can comfort the afflicted and afflict the comforted. Afflict the comforted does not mean that they will be made pained, but it means that basically those who are comfortable, like Srila Prabhupada preached to Amrish Prabhu, Alfred Ford, then he told that, where is Henry Ford? And that 4 words made him understand material life is useless. Let me take shelter of Krishna. So that is the meaning I'm saying, afflict the comforted. And if someone is bereaved, he can get comfort of Krishna's shelter when he... So here Chitraketu was also bereaved, and this was a successful preaching. Here Narad Muni, actually first Angira Muni had come, and he saw that Chitraketu is in no mood to hear spiritual program. So then he gave him a son who would become a source of his bereavement. And then in that utterly distressed situation, when Angira Muni again comes with his friend Narad Muni, so first Angira Muni speaks a lot, and then Narad Muni speaks in a very special way. Through his mystic powers, he enters the sun's body and speaks through the sun. So of course, again, we may not be able to do this, as we may not have such siddhis, but the principle of how he was trying to apply that, now if the son speaks, because the child, when he speaks, and that person who they were really attached to, then they will be very, very attentive. And when a child speaks any philosophical words, it becomes very attractive to hear. So Narad Muni applied that principle to do the needful to transform the heart of Chitraketu. Actually, Chitraketu already has heard a lot from Angira Muni, and in fact, he says that I am like an animal. You please give me divine knowledge. But Narad Muni could see still his lamentation and all has not gone. Lamentation and illusion. So now he spoke through the sun, and after that, he actually gets delivered from that. Next, Mrigari. Well, Mrigari was killing all the animals half and then giving them a lot of pain. And usually, saintly people do not say that you kill people. Kill. So Narad Muni came and told him that why are you killing them half? You should kill them full. It's a very unique kind of statement because usually saintly people will say you should not kill them. But because he told kill them full, and also the very disposition of Narad Muni, the saintly uh, demeanor of Narad Muni made Mrigari. Actually, Mrigari came with a very agitated heart because as soon as Narad Muni came there, all the animals and birds who he was wanting to kill had run away. So then Mrigari was very angry. He wanted to speak some words, but then he saw that such a saintly person is there. So he rather starts asking, can I do some seva for you? I can give you some deer skin. What do you want? I will tell you. I will give you that. Anyway, Narad Muni says, I just want one thing. You kill them full. Don't kill them half. So it was a very easy one for him. But he said, but my family members have been teaching me like this. The father taught me like this. Anyway, the principle that Mrigari could understand from Narad Muni that I'm actually getting very sinful reactions. So Narad Muni employed the idea of saying kill them full. We see another very amazing example of Dasyu Ratnakar, who became Valmiki Muni. So Dasyu Ratnakar was also very, he would be very atrocious. And when Narad Muni approached him, he told that all your sinful reactions you will have to suffer because of this. He said, no, I'm doing it for my family. He said, you go and ask your family. Now, usually we don't do that also. It's a very innovative idea. But yeah, if someone is in that situation, maybe he can ask. And when he asked, then wife said, no, 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 no. Children said, no, 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 no. No one agreed to be part of the sinful reaction. And then the other part of the innovation was very, very amazing one was that Narad Muni told him to chant Mara, 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 Mara because he was not able to chant Rama. So, and by that, by doing tapasya, Valmiki Muni, Ratnakar became Valmiki Muni and wrote the Ramayana. So that was about Narad Muni. There can be more examples, surely. But we'll go towards how Srila Prabhupada helps us to appreciate about innovation. So in the section of Narad Muni speaking to Vyasadev, there is a discussion about bringing out novel ways of preaching. So I'll just read some sections of this entire text. So Srimad Bhagavatam is the topmost theological science and therefore it can react on the layman as medicinal doses. So Narad Muni is already telling Vyasadev that why have you written all these other scriptures which will distract them from the real thing? You have made them feel for enjoying this material world more and more. So Srimad Bhagavatam should be taught. And he says you should give exclusive glorification of the Lord. So this is the medicine. So Prabhupada writes that they will gradually become purified by this from the material disease by hearing this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is non different than Krishna. And then Prabhupada writes this line, which is very important. The expert devotees also can discover novel ways and means to convert the non-devotees in terms of particular time and circumstance. Devotional service is dynamic activity, and the expert devotee can find out competent means to inject it into the dull brains of the materialistic population. So the devotee has to think how to reach the message of Srimad Bhagavatam to all the living entities, all the people. We will see how Srila Prabhupada did that, and even the current devotees are doing. So Prabhupada says that this is very important to bring a new order of life to the foolish society of material civilization. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his subsequent followers exhibited expert dexterity in this connection. By following the same method, one can bring the materialistic men of this age of quarrel into order of peaceful life and transcendental realization. So Lord Chaitanya's associates and the followers, so especially we see and the way Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur preached was very, very radical and very innovative. I know he would give even Bhagavatam, he spoke on Ishopanishad to the Radhakund Babas sitting on a Rolls Royce car in a suit boot coat tie. So it's quite innovative. No one will imagine speaking to Radhakund Babas like that, but it was quite innovative. So Prabhupada is saying that they had expert dexterity how to handle like that. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur also had a full exhibition uh, set up. So there are many things that he did, and Prabhupada is saying we should follow their footsteps. Prabhupada also mentions in the purport previous to this purport that Narad Muni is chastising Vyasadev, Jugupsitam, that it is very condemned that one has been given something substandard. A patient suffering from a particular type of malady is almost always inclined to accept eatables which are forbidden for him. The expert physician does not make any compromise with the patient by allowing him to take partially what he should not take at all. So it is. Can you mute it, Prabhu, there? So it is important that when we are trying to do innovation, Prabhupada is giving a warning here through Narad Muni's statements that it is important that we don't dilute to a degree where the medicine changes to something which is like just like we can give gulab jamun and the medicine in the gulab jamun, but we should not just give the gulab jamun without the medicine, thinking that we are giving him the joy of gulab jamun. So there are many times people, when they want to appease the mind and senses of people, in trying to innovate for that, they lose the core medicine only. So what he mentioned as the medicine is the Bhagavatam message. So Prabhupada says further in a purport, these purports are very beautiful. Srimad Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, 7th chapter. There is a section where it is being discussed how Lord Chaitanya had come to deliver everyone, and some were left out, like the Mayavadis and the. So for delivering them also he is working. Ta sabha dubaite patibe kichu ranga. Ranga means tricking. So Lord Chaitanya is saying, I shall devise a trick to drown them all, also. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to invent a way to capture the Mayavadis and others who did not take interest in the Krishna consciousness movement. This is the symptom of an acharya. An acharya who comes for the service of the Lord cannot be expected to conform to a stereotype, for he must find the ways and means by which Krishna consciousness may be spread. So now I've cut the section which is dealing with what the modern, some of the contemporaries of Prabhupada were trying to criticize him on. So Prabhupada takes through these purports, same one theme which he was getting criticism on, which is about very easily intermingling of the women and men in ISKCON movement. So Prabhupada comments on it, which I'll summarize at the end because each purport had a lot of text about it. So I have separated it. But Prabhupada said that they cannot think, these jealous people cannot think of how to spread Krishna by adopting ways and means that are favorable for this purpose. That means they will continue to do their stereotype thing and remain in their own small number. And what Srila Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted, that it should be preached all over the world, will never happen because they are just caught up in that stereotype idea. The stereotype methods will never help spread Krishna consciousness. So what we are doing is perfect by the grace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. For it is he who proposed to invent a way to capture those who strayed from Krishna consciousness. And the next one, 737 verse, he mentions something even more important. He says, every acharya has a specific means of propagating his spiritual movement with the aim of bringing men to Krishna consciousness. Therefore, the method of one acharya may be different from that another, but the ultimate goal is never neglected. This is very important. So while doing the innovation, the goal is very clear. What is the goal? Tasmat kenapi upayena mana Krishna nivesha. So one should be somehow brought to Krishna consciousness. And then sarve vidhi nishedashu etayor eva kinkara. So he says first they should become Krishna conscious, and all the prescribed rules and regulations may later gradually be introduced. If we see this in contrast to what the God Brothers of Srila Prabhupada did in London, They got a very cultured person, in contrast to Prabhupada dealing with the counterculture people. They got someone who was like a Lord Zetland, and he wanted to become a Brahmana, while Prabhupada's hippie disciples never had a conception of Brahmana. But he wanted to become a Brahmana, and the devotee told that you have to follow these 4 regs. And as soon as he told 4 regs, he said impossible. And they came back to tell Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur that your formula does not work. But Srila Prabhupada is saying that if we make them Krishna conscious in some way or the other, then they will be able to follow the rules. We'll see how Prabhupada enables it in just a minute. It is the concern of the Acharya to show mercy to the fallen souls. In this connection, Desha Kala Patra should be taken into consideration. Sabha nistarite kare chaturi apar. Chaturi. So there has to be some cleverness. A preacher must strictly follow the rules and regulations laid down in the Shastra, yet at the same time devise a means by which the preaching work to reclaim the fallen souls go on with full force. That means he should remain pure in his practices while trying to make the outreach effective in the way that one may change certain details. So Prabhupada is very clear that one should remain pure in his own practices. So now about that intermingling of the girls and boys. So Prabhupada says a couple of principles. He says that we cannot suddenly change a community's social customs. Another thing he says that as a sannyasi, I am making boys and girls get married. Maybe I am the only sannyasi in the history of sannyas, Prabhupada says there. However, Prabhupada says that they are being trained to become preachers. So these girls are as good as the boys. And we are engaging both boys and girls fully in transcendental activities. Then he says, of course, we very strictly prohibit illicit sex. So boys and girls who are not married are not allowed to sleep together or live together. There are separate arrangements for boys and girls. And grihasthas live outside the temple, for in the temple we do not allow husband and wife to live together. So like this, Prabhupada has brought certain principles to keep the purity, sanctity of the movement. And at the same time, he's saying that we have to empower the girls also. They're having equal rights. Another place in the same purport, he says, they're having equal rights there for boys and girls. So we have to give freedom for that. And the results are wonderful. Lord Chaitanya's movement is spreading with redoubled strength. So that's the thing. So now I'll share certain, how much time now we have? I'm sorry, I did not see that. Till 1? 1 minute left. 1 minute only left. Oh my God. I'm sorry. I miscalculated. Sorry. Okay. Then I will just brush through. So Prabhupada's innovations. So Prabhupada started with Easy Journey to Other Planets, which is current affairs. He started Bhaktivedanta Institute, scientific preaching. For music-related things, people in hippie world loved music. So Mantra Rock Show. When he went to Africa, Brahmanand Prabhu had brought a lot of Indians. Prabhupada said, what is this? I want Africans. And he started Kirtan. He would open the doors and all the Africans came and they danced to the fullest joy and they became devotees eventually. Srila Prabhupada was very powerful in preaching through prasadam. Indian cuisine was a great delight. Chocolate pastime is one devotee was attached to chocolate. So when he paid obeisance to Prabhupada, the chocolate came out from the pocket. And then Prabhupada did not judge him on that. Rather, Prabhupada cooked a very nice chocolate cake and gave him. And then he lost all his taste for the outside chocolate. And devotees also started cooking classes. Initially, Prabhupada started with Sanskrit classes also to preach. Prabhupada said, taste of liquor is Krishna. And by drinking liquor, they will be thinking, oh, Krishna is so nice. And they got purified to give up liquor and remain with Krishna. That's what somehow make them Krishna conscious. Then they will be able to follow rules and regs. Hippie asks, what is spiritual world like? Prabhupada said, it is an ocean of LSD. No? Now, it's nothing to do with LSD, but still, in his terms, ecstasy means LSD. So, okay. A counterculture. So Prabhupada was dealing with the counterculture because he is going to do some drastic change in their life in terms of culture. And a counterculture world had a very easy, they could easily take it up. So talks with the car racer. So once the car racer was talking to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada talked a lot about cars and the races and all. And then he said, so are there accidents also at times? He said, yes. So that means there is death. Oh, so death means what happens after death, and then he started the spiritual talk. So first connect and then give the injection, Prabhupada, when he came to India, people were taking Sankirtan cheaply. They were throwing coins over the devotees while they were doing Sankirtan. Prabhupada said, start life membership. Prabhupada told the Americans when they came to Bombay that if you Americans, young Americans cannot do something great, then what is the use of you being Americans? Now, Prabhupada is not trying to make them bodily conscious. Rather, he's going to engage them completely with a great challenge for them in Krishna consciousness. And then farm community, Prabhupada started because people eventually will need sustainability. George Harrison and Peter Burwash, these are two people who were celebrities in the world outside. Peter Burwash was a Wimbledon champion. So Prabhupada preached to them very separately and preached to them according to what they can follow. Prabhupada also started art and culture efforts like fete, exhibition, dramas he would do. I told about the deity worship. In the current innovative preaching, I can share something about the bridge preaching. So bridge preaching does not mean we just do anything with the message. It should be time bound, that we bring them closer to Krishna. There should be gradually bringing them to Krishna directly. And there should be also Shraddha in the core Krishna items increasing as they get those bridge preaching efforts. So like the Lord, Shastras, devotees, etc. We also celebrate Hindu festivals. Many colleges are very welcoming us. Recently, Achut Mohanpur sent us a report about 1,500 plus boys and girls were dancing in the Kirtan for 15 minutes in the IIT BHU campus, because the director invited him and they want all the festivals to be celebrated now. And we can introduce them Krishna consciousness in that way. Book distribution, well, marathon, Prabhupada started with Christmas marathon because Christmas time people buy things. Here we started with Gita Jayanti in the same time because Gita Jayanti is something resonating. Christmas will not work. Bhadra Purnima, people are eager to connect to certain things like which will give them immediate benefit. Like if you take Bhagavatam on Bhadra Purnima, then you will have you'll go back to God. So then people look forward to it. BG contest is an innovative way to tap onto the contest feeling. Winning prizes a tendency of the children. And videos and PPTs we are using, all this is also innovative. So I touched upon different preaching efforts of Narad Muni. And okay, so these are some generic principles. Consider Deshkal Patra. Ultimate goal should not be lost to give them Krishna. Personal purity should be maintained. Krishna consciousness should be spoken in their language through talks about their interest zone. Like Prabhupada spoke to scientists in a scientific way, Prabhupada started BI. Prana arthe dhiya vacha. Everyone will not give prana. So let's see if we can have the dhiya or the talent. Andhapanyaya, Prabhupada said, like blind and the lame. So Prabhupada wanted that Krishna gives vision and purpose to every field of expertise, and we engage their talent in Krishna Seva, and they can engage their talent in glorifying Krishna. So this verse is very famous one, Idam hi pumsas tapasa shrutaseva, where Prabhupada says that all fields of knowledge can be engaged in the glorification of the Supreme Lord. Sorry for the time mistake, actually. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Sorry, Prabhu. And yes.
Hare Krishna. Innovative preaching appears very attractive to bring the conditioned soul in the fold of Krishna consciousness. However, like there is some kind of risk also that on the name of innovative preaching, it should not happen that a preacher itself goes in Maya fold. So while doing innovative preaching, how to ensure that I am in my limits? This is one question. And second part of it is that is a kind of innovative preaching someone is doing successfully. Is it that any other person can also do it in the same success manner? Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Your both points are very important. So, yes, a devotee, as he is trying to reach out to other people, Prabhupada also is mentioning that one has to keep his own purity of his practices. So, Like once I was talking to his case, Gaur Gopal Prabhu, when he had come to Kanpur for a Prerna program. So he was eating the sandwiches which he had packed in chapati. So I asked him, Prabhuji, why, he said, I never take anything outside. I have to take whatever is cooked by the devotees only. So the morning program, if someone is meeting many big people, he may tend to go for, okay, what to do to be practical with them. I have to eat at their places also, and then we may get diluted. So there are certain basic tenets that in Krishna consciousness we need to keep for keeping our own purity. And people outside also very much regard it if we speak it without judgment on them. Like if we share that how I don't take outside, please forgive me, I take whatever is cooked. Many people regard it, especially for the renounced order. At least in India, it's quite easy. So we have to be very honest on our principles, which are vital to our practice to keep up our purity. Then we will be able to bring long lasting grace. Otherwise, they may see us in the renounced order one day, and next day they may have more trouble from the preaching because they saw this fellow only lost the purity. So we have to be careful in that. So there is especially morning program, association of equals and seniors, and certain pure practices like abstinence from honest avoidance of opposite sex, eating pure prasadam, and all those principles. These, if we can keep up, we can have our purity maintained. And also in trying to do innovation, we have to see what is our adhikar, which comes from the next point which you shared. So everyone has a different adhikar. Someone may be able to take a like if Srila Indradhanu Swami Maharaj, he goes to beaches also and brings them to Krishna. Srila Radhanath Maharaj says that if someone tries to imitate Maharaj, his own Indradhanu Maharaj will fall down. So Maharaj is aloof because he is beyond, and someone else may fall down. So one has to know his adhikar, how is he getting tainted by the modes while trying to do the needful for the preaching. So one has to be very honest with himself and his superiors so that he can get the right uh, idea of what he can do and grow gradually. Maybe once he has more strength of bhakti, then he can handle even a more diverse idea from what earlier he could not. So surely one has to be very honest about his own bhakti life. Yes. Any comments?
Really, sometimes what happens that on the name of being innovative, it becomes not exactly preaching. It takes the audience in a different direction, and like we have seen many other institutes also, like we tend to forget the goal of bringing that change in heart, or bringing that surrender in the heart of audience towards Srila Prabhupada. So when to understand that my innovative style of preaching is actually making me go drift away from what Prabhupada has given.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned about the bridge preaching thing, that in the bridge preaching there can be 2 points, time bound. That means not like we are for 5 years waiting on that guy to come to the direct program. There should be, when his Grace Radheshampu asked his Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, he said maximum 1 year. So we should be, so like that we should try to see that we touch the person with a direct message very soon, if not immediately, but sooner than later. So of course, the expert preacher has to gradually put them towards it. In that also, what is exactly the direct message the preacher should know? It is not about being a brahmachari. The direct message is about engaging in devotional service. So, like if you're talking to IIT boys, we don't have to say that you have to become brahmacharis, but as they embrace the bhakti in their life, like Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, renunciation should be administered according to the advancement of the follower. So renunciation aspect is separate, but bhakti aspect and the knowledge aspect should be given at the earliest. But that also sometimes when the people are trying to do bridge, So in the bridge preaching, they may give leadership, stress management, or family care, and all those things. But in those, there should be Shraddha components for the core. Like you should help people to appreciate the personality of Lord Krishna and Lord Ram while trying to talk leadership principles from Bhagavad Gita. They should love Lord Krishna. If you're teaching from Ramayana, they should love Lord Ram. And also the Shastras, they should appreciate, oh, Shastras has so much wisdom. I want to catch more of it. And they should love devotees whose personal demeanor in their life attracts them, that I want to associate with devotees more and more. And then the devotees can very easily then open their heart to give the direct message also. So the Shraddha, if it is increasing, then the direct message also gradually can be given. And that should be there in the back of the mind of the devotee, that what I want to really carve out eventually out of this person. So there are devotees who just do that other part of touching them with sweetness of some appeasing their mind and senses. But overall, the principle of preaching to a person should have the growth point for him. In case tomorrow he does not grow out of his own sweet will, that is his journey. But we should somewhere try to lift him above also the gross. Does that help, Prabhu? Okay, I think we.
Just one more question. This in Srila Prabhupada times, we see that there was not. You quoted a lot of instances that how Prabhupada is telling that think innovative, bring in a different way. But you find that comparative to present times, there was not much different techniques used, but it was quite like doing Harinam, doing book distribution, and making so many devotees, and the output in the society was much more than what it is being produced now. So how to understand that if innovative preaching is actually means where we are lacking?
So I showed also Prabhupada did innovations. Like if you see Bhaktivedanta Institute, so Srila Prabhupada wanted synthesis of science and religion. That was during the time of Prabhupada, right? So that was not that Prabhupada did not want people to understand things in their language. Prabhupada understood I cannot speak so scientifically like a scientific devotee. So Prabhupada made BI. You know? So depends on the Desh Kalapatra again, what the people will connect to. Like if you see, if now we are very much welcomed by people for Gita, Gita is a direct thing, but that was not the time in the earlier days. So we can go direct at this time. When I was going to, I was talking to MIT College, and MIT College, they were saying that you please directly teach Bhagavad Gita, direct message. That when madam is there. I said, no, madam, I will teach first some bridging topics so that the boys don't reject us. No, they need the direct message. No. So I was trying to be on this side. And then I tried to be on that side only. And I kept 2-3 classes like that. And when his guest Kadam Kanan Prabhu went with the direct discover inner self, science of soul, then all the boys and girls were very happy on that message. And they were not interested in the other thing. So they were laughing and joking when they were talking about stress management and all. So sometimes we also maybe too, reserved about going direct. We have to see what works in different situations. Basically, if the devotee is able to strike direct, it is best. Why to waste time? But if that does not make any sense to the people, and then you reject the entire class of people, then anyway you lost the game. Then what further you will do? So it is important that we try to see what works. And if the goal is not achieved, then we leave it. Like Prabhupada started Sanskrit classes and then he left it. So Prabhupada started Sanskrit classes. What is Sanskrit to do with the core Krishna consciousness? But Prabhupada did it because he thought maybe this can work. Devotees started cooking classes in times of Prabhupada. So there were things which Prabhupada did. And we may be doing new endeavors. But like BG contest is a new endeavor. But it is in trying to give the Bhagavad Gita only in their hands. And they read Bhagavad Gita. Okay? Thank you. Prabhu, comments?
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for covering the so many wide aspect of innovative preaching. Of course, we covered from the scriptures, and you also touched some of the innovative means which Srila Prabhupada applied, and of course, the kind of innovation which are being done in the current ISKCON, that also you touched. So it was well presented. And regarding some improvement points, it's I find very tough to think about it. But overall, it was very well done. And I mean, I got benefit by hearing you. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Antardipu, you have presented very nicely. Scripture and modern way, all those things was very nice. But one thing I was thinking that could have told something about how in modern days somebody started doing innovative preaching and how he ended up with some risky job in his life. There's so many examples are there nowadays, so that practically we can, although it is very good, but nowadays myself I am seeing that instead of preaching, direct preaching, so many innovative things are going on, but people are not giving Bhagavad Gita, people are not giving Bhagavatam, then that is not the yeah. So there are so many things. At least in India, there so many opportunities are there, but we can also speak something about direct preaching and innovate. What is the risk involved in innovative preaching, and what are the benefits? Although risk is there, but how we can overcome those risks, and how we can, even after having risk, after using innovative preaching, what are the benefits we are getting, and so that we can increase preaching in our life. That was the thing I was contemplating. Otherwise, overall presentation, very nice preaching. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Just one point I would say. And maybe it happens also just because you could not track the time. So the last part you just covered very fast.
Yeah.
And in that last part, you just quoted Shraddha in core Krishna conscious items. Yes. Yeah. And you just went ahead very fast. And that point I could not capture very clearly. So if you can elaborate on that, it will be nice.
Okay. So, for example, when we are trying to build people's Shraddha and Shabda Praman, like when Discover Self sessions, if we take, Discover Self sessions build first from science. So people think that, oh, they are very scientific. And gradually through science and the fourth effect, then we come to Shabda. And then we keep science, but Shabda is the foundation. And then later it's all on Shabda only, like spiritual world and all, what you will talk from science much. So from what is known to the unknown, we can go. So people may not have immediately Shraddha and, oh, you're talking from scripture that Krishna is saying spiritual world exists and all. They will say, okay, that's your belief. But if you build it from where their Shraddha is, and then you lift their Shraddha to what actually where the Shraddha should be. Now they have come to Shraddha in Shastra. Scientists are saying that God exists. Oh, sir, oh, then I believe in God. Now God is saying, don't believe in God, don't believe in the scientist, believe in my pramana. So, we have to, like Radhashyambhu gives the example of someone who is attached to, something. It's like a wet handkerchief over the thorns. If you pull it like this, it will tear off. You lift it gradually, then you can lift it up. So people have attachment to certain misconceptions. So we have to help them develop Shraddha in the right personalities. Like they may have misconception about some wrong Babas. We want to give them devotees, Shraddha in devotees. So gradually lift them there, lift them to right Shastras to take shelter of, lift them to appreciate Lord's personality. So there are many components, like holy name has the power. So many things. Like I showed them one scientific video where it shows about how sound makes a difference to the kind of existence we have. So that makes them, oh, then I should chant nicely and I should not speak bad words. So they are very eager to hear scientists say it. And then when we say that Shastras also say it, they have more faith. But it is the beginning. And then they can go on to that. Because they develop faith in Shastra, now they apply Shastra, now they chant. Now when they chant, they will get reformed. Now they will have more faith in Shastra. Now we can directly talk Shastra. Yes.
Hare Krishna. So
Just one thing, Prabhu. And the bhajan kriya starts, no, Prabhuji. Shraddha is here. But then the sadhu sangha becomes, and then the bhajan kriya has the rules and regulations. So Prabhupada is trying to say that make them come to Krishna. Make them feel happy for Krishna and devotees. Then their Shraddha is there, no? That will help them to take the bhajan kriya also. So when we make them chant Hare Krishna, many of the boys on their own say that now I don't want to eat meat. So the bhajan kriya is potent, easily workable when the core shraddhas have become very nice by this kind of effort. So that's the bridge preaching's inner intent. Otherwise, it will be not keeping that Krishna Niveshayate. Yes, Prabhuji. Sorry.
Hare Krishna. So we say apology for what is this? Projector which delayed your presentation.
No.
So you nicely presented this topic, innovation in preaching Krishna consciousness. And you have, it's like a zip file only, what your PPT is. There is so much data you had. It is like so much you got the references and all that. That time fell short.
Sorry.
So you can you can manage the time so that people get something little. They may not. You wanted to give us the full. You want to do justice with the topic, so you brought so many things, and it was there with you. And so you can reduce according to your time. If you have 1 hour, it's this would have been justifiable. But if it is half an hour, you can reduce some slides and give less but important to students. And also you could have added practical things, how innovation has taken place in this era also. Like Raishabru started voice thing, how it reached, it is like out of box concept where sadhus are going and staying nearby the hostel or nearby the they're leaving temple and going there and making small temple, many temples. So itself is innovated it. And how innovation without blessings becomes a commotion actually, or deviation. So that risk also you can mention. So positive, negative will give the balance to your presentation. So that also you can add. Otherwise, you have done very well. So thank you. His Grace Santarti Pro ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We end for the day.
And then now we done that kind of. So